Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you may be. My apologies for the late start, just having some technical issues on our end. But thank you so much for joining our PTM forum on the current state of travel media. We have a great program ahead of us today, so let's jump into it. First, allow me to introduce myself. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Paul Brancan. I am the Director of Communications and External Affairs at the Pacific Asia Travel Association, and I will be your host and moderator for today's PTM forum. Before we get into the program, just one quick note that I want to make everyone aware of. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Zoom, as you notice at the bottom of your screen, you'll see there's a chat function and a Q&A function. For the chat function, feel free to introduce yourself to your fellow attendees. Say, your name, where you're from, what your business is. However, if you have a question, please use the Q&A function that's located at the bottom of the screen. It's harder for me to sort of look at both the chat and Q&A for any questions. So please use the Q&A function to ask any questions for our panelists today. As you know, the PTM forum is hosted by Lershan, and with that, they wanted to share a video with all of you today. So without further ado, please sit back and enjoy this quick video. "智者乐水，仁者乐山。天下山水之观在蜀，蜀之胜曰嘉州。乐山之乐，乐在山水画卷中。越过那座山，渡过那条河，你像是翻开了一本地质天书，又像是走进了一部中国山水画史。乐山之乐，乐在浩瀚史诗里。公元前7世纪，蜀王开明定居乐山。自此，这方灵山秀水之间，名人辈出，士大夫之郡名动华夏。东坡念故土，岑参知嘉州。李白咏峨眉，陆游赞大佛。历代文人雅士纷至沓来，史不绝书。巧匠慧心持续生长，诗情画意依然鲜活在乐山话的五彩古音和婉转悠扬里。乐山之乐，乐在缭绕乡韵间。书香之城，文化乐山。茶香萦绕，山高水长。菜香弥漫，味在乐山。小生活，大自在。乐山乐水乐业，乐游天下。书香、茶香、菜香，香飘九州。乐山百乐，乐在永恒的时光里。
锦绣乐山，百乐之城。
I hope you enjoyed that video. I've been to Lershon a couple times. I do have to say it's absolutely beautiful. So I do, once hopefully, we all can travel soon, or, next time you plan to travel anywhere, do check out Lershon. It is a beautiful destination, great Sichuan food, and very friendly people. So today's PTM forum is going to look at the current state of travel media. As we all know, the travel and tourism industry has been severely affected, and it's affected everybody from governments to airlines to hotels, and even travel media has been impacted. But when we look for recovery, authoritative, trusted news will be important. As we know, communications is going to be the foundation for recovery of the industry. So how is travel media dealing with a certain situation? How have they pivoted in the current situation? And what is their audience looking for now? And with that, we have several people with us from various travel media. And I would like to introduce who we have with us today. So first we have Denis Iulin. I hope I pronounced that right. He is the editor at Profi.Travel, which is based in Russia. He's the editor of incoming and domestic tourism for Profi.Travel, one of Russia's top B2B travel media. Denis, in 2014, won a Hunter S. Thompson Prize for achievements in civic journalism and proved that freedom of speech in Russia exists. We'd love to hear more about that at some other time. Also joining us, we have Karen Yu. She's the group editor of TTG Asia Media's TTG Travel Trade Publishing Business Unit, a position that sees her leading a team of almost 20 editors, reporters, and correspondents across Asia Pacific. And earlier today, she won a Pot of Gold Award for Business Article. Last here, we have Stuart McDonald. He's the co-founder of online travel guide to Southeast Asia, Travelfish, which he launched in 2004. He's also the author of Couchfish, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Hopefully, Anne Banas will join us. She's the editor of BBC Travel, which is BBC.com's award-winning travel vertical. Unfortunately, there was a mix-up in the timing. As you know, where the program is on GMT +8. I think I've informed her of the incorrect timing, so actually it's my mistake, and I apologize for that. Hopefully she does join us soon. With that, I'd like to welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Stuart's
having me.
Yeah, Stuart's in a beautiful Bali over there.
Yep.
Okay, so let's just jump right into the questions here. I mean, I'll start with Karen. Just going around the horn here. So how's the current pandemic affected TTG Asia, and and how you guys are doing business?
Yeah, I think it's the clearest impact on us is the reduction in advertising spend. I mean, we've seen it across the industry, where companies are looking to extend their runways. So, whatever resources they have are being used for most critical purposes. And unfortunately, for some reason, marketing is not considered critical expense at this moment. Although we have been seeing a reduction in advertising spend and revenue, we have been very fortunate to still get some continued support from the very few travel and tourism stakeholders that are determined to keep communications and marketing presence at this current moment. Now, leading from that reduction in advertising revenue, it impacts on our resources. So we have to watch how we spend our editorial resources. Here in the region, I'm very fortunate. I've got a team of 20 full-time reporters and editors, as well as a team of regular correspondents whom I always rely on to comb their markets for trends and developments. So in times of crisis, naturally the newsroom is at its busiest, right? But then with reduced resources, this is also a time for closer scrutiny of content, where I have to then very carefully evaluate what news leads we can afford to chase up. Another impact is, of course, on our physical presence in the marketplace. So typically, as a team or as individuals, we travel around the region on average once a month to cover conferences and attend trade events where we report on what's happening and also get some inspiration for upcoming news and features. Virtual events clearly has its perks at this point, but nothing really beats face-to-face interaction where you can actually pick up body language and hear what's not being said. So I think those are the main impact that we are seeing on our side.
And Denis, I mean, what about, how is it, I don't know what's it like in Russia now. I mean, because your audience is basically primarily Russian. I mean, it's Russian speaking, right? So how has it affected Profi.Travel in terms of your operations and your stories that are being written?
Well, of course, it's affected our advertisement section, but at the same time, we had growth in our audience in numbers. For example, in the beginning of crisis, we had about like 200% growth in the numbers of our visitors on our website, and I think it was because they were shocked and they were lacking information, so they I had to know that our main audience is travel agents and tour operators and as well as hoteliers. So they were lacking information and they were looking for some information they can trust, some respected sources. And our media is one of the top B2B media. And of course, it's for some, it was #1 source of information in this crisis. I'd like to note that we were quite lucky and we did not suffer much from the crisis just because our company is developing online market for 20 years so far, and we developed as well our technologies. So and because of the crisis, all offline events in one moment has shut down. Everybody went online. So, and we already were there at the time. So we basically just switched to what we have been doing before a long time. And so webinars, some PR campaigns, some online exhibitions. So we just continued doing it in bigger numbers. For example, usually we have like at least one exhibition every like 3 months. And this time we had like 3 in basically one exhibition per month. So it was in high demand, this type of product, obviously, because, well, despite the fact that many companies they have cut their budgets, they still need to do something and to inform the audience about what they're doing, and also to trying to keep the clients. So they had to communicate to them, and we were one of the main platforms for them to use to do that. So obviously, as I said, we have a decrease in our PR campaign, mainly in B2C segment. However, we have some other growth points. As I said, it's in B2B segment, it's online exhibitions, webinars, and also we started a new platform, which is we host online events for organizations from non-tourism sector. So basically some industrial organizations, some NGOs, and so on and so forth. And this product also had a high demand as well.
Thanks. So let's shift gears a bit, because Stuart, you're a small publisher. So I mean, it must have. I mean, SMEs we know that have been impacted the most. I mean, it must have been pretty hard for travel fish, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was catastrophic. From the get-go, we lost about 85% of our traffic. So we're very customer facing. We're not really an industry publication. So we lost almost all of our traffic. We were previously, one of the main ways we made money was commissions on hotel bookings. So they dropped to zero because nobody was traveling anymore. And so they're not booking hotels. I couldn't send riders anymore to do research because I felt it was unsafe. You couldn't buy travel insurance, all of that kind of thing. So it was really a perfect storm. So that's why we pivoted to try and do something else to keep us busy.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, because I know people have had to pivot. So you have an interesting story about how you pivoted, which, and you're very humble about it, but I find it actually pretty. I think it's actually pretty successful. Can you explain about what you pivoted towards and explain Couchfish?
Well, the situation was that everybody was stuck at home. Like this is in March or April when all the lockdowns were coming in. And so we had this idea that people are stuck at home on their couch, right? Because they can't travel anymore. So what I did was I made a daily email newsletter, and it traces a fantasy itinerary through Southeast Asia. So each day it's a new step in this itinerary. And it's a paid subscription. So the price at the moment, people pay $7 a month, and they get one email daily, Monday to Friday. So I'm up to about, I think about day 125 now or something like that. So I've got a plan for like 300 days or something, but we've been up through Thailand, through Laos, down through Vietnam, and now we're going into, I've just got to Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And it's it's a very personalized itinerary. It's generally based off stuff that I've done myself because I've been traveling in the region for 20 years. And it's been very well received. And the other thing is that we wanted to bring travel to people who couldn't travel anymore. I mean, that's the core mission, I guess you would say. But we've always concentrated on small sustainable businesses, family-owned businesses, that kind of thing. And our readership is, we call them flash packers. So they're like backpackers with a little bit more money. And so we through the emails, we highlight sustainable businesses along the way. So you might go to this community-based tourism project here or there, or stay in this family-owned guest house or whatever. But the emails are short. They're generally 500-600 words a day. And it's been very encouraging so far.
You mind if I ask how many subscribers you have? And I guess the other question I wanted to ask is how many subscribers you have currently then?
Just shy of 1,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And you get sponsorship. Is there other revenue, or is it just subscriber based?
There's no ads, there's no affiliate system or anything. It's the whole product is, excuse me, people are just paying for something that they want. Okay. So, yeah.
Wow, yeah. I know when I first talked to you, you were very humble about it. You're like, oh, it's okay. I want to jump to TTG because I know TTG, Karen, TTG, you guys also have other aspects of your business, not just the publication. Of course, there's events. I mean, have you guys adapted in terms of pivoted other ways? Like, I know that you did an online event, or have you thought about, okay, maybe let's do subscriptions? I know like Skift did subscriptions. So were there any other ideas of, okay, we need to make up that revenue that we've lost from advertising, or is it just, let's just try to deal with what we have?
Okay, so there are several business units under TTG Asia Media. Like you said, TTG Events, that division has just recently in August delivered their first online ITCM China. That was quite a successful event with close to 95% of actual fulfilled meetings. So I won't go into detail on that because that's not my area of business unit. So I can perhaps tell you more about what the publishing and the editorial units are doing. So you know that we have maintained our news coverage for TTG Asia Online and TTG Mice Online. We've cut away some of the print edition only because a lot of offices across the region are shut due to government movement restrictions. Although we've done away with the print, we're still going ahead with the digital only versions, and these go out to our global audience. So from the editorial team, work hasn't actually slowed down. In fact, it's picked up because everyone is turning to news media, like what Denis said. You know, everyone in times of uncertainty, they rely more heavily on news channels. Besides editorial, the regular traditional editorial work, we have also launched editorial-driven webinars. So that's TTG Conversations. And very recently, on September 1st, we launched the 5 questions video series. So these online events have enabled us to maintain some interaction with our readers and key industry opinion leaders. Personally, as a moderator for 3 of the 4 webinars that we did, and also for the initial episodes of 5 questions video series, these interactions are so precious for me because during the lockdown, my interactions where I can actually look into the faces of people I talk to have been limited to my immediate family. So I really like being able to do what we are doing right now, even with you. Yeah, and we're also starting to do something that's more exciting, an ASEAN Travel Fest, which is just only announced. So hopefully all these things will help cover the advertising slowdown. But having said that, we are still having, you know, stakeholders who are still determined to keep the communications going. So while these may not be your traditional advertising, branding advertising, we are seeing more of those specialized content where the editorial team works with marketers to decide on how we want to put the messages across.
So like sponsored post, advertorial.
Yeah, sponsored post, special reports, advertorials, yeah.
Yeah, because I know people still, you want to keep your destination or your product sort of top of the mind, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the thing is now a lot of communications have started to rev up again. So, you know, you can't go silent. The moment you go silent, someone's going to take over anyway.
Yeah. And Denis, you had mentioned that you guys have pivoted a bit when you guys moved to other industries. You were doing online, I guess, online travel marts before, I guess, even before COVID. So that's how it's been successful for you guys. So I'm going to switch to this other question then. In terms of what you guys are doing, I mean, what has your audience sort of really, what's really sort of brought the most attention for your audience, right? I mean, what are they reading now? Is it just about, oh, you know, what are the safety procedures, or are they just looking for inspirational pieces? I know it'd be different for someone like Stuart and Karen and Denis, but what's sort of attracting people's attention the most? Denis, what about you? What are your readers most interested in right now?
Well, as I said before, we also, besides like doing online travel marts, we also had increase in in our audience, because they wanted to know what's going on, because the information, the right information, there was actually like a chaos in the beginning, and nobody know what to do. So we were like a little lighthouse in the darkness for them. So, and our audience, they were interested in basically what is going on with companies like with tour operators on our market. What do they do? What do they? How do they switch the accents? Like, because everything has shut down, they had to switch to the internal Russian market, and some companies haven't really done it before. So for them it was quite a challenge, and so they were like our audience, the travel agents, they were looking for how these companies will basically, what will they sell, how do they, what do they offer because the competition has increased as well, and the internal market, because there were companies that was specializing in basically Russian tourism, so tourism just inside Russia. And after the crisis started, all the other companies basically they also came to this market, to internal market. So competition has increased dramatically. But at the same time, they were lacking the knowledge, the professional knowledge they had to be successful in this market. Mm. So. And the same, and travel agents also were lacking this knowledge. So the tour operators companies, they started to educate the travel agents of this new product, because at the beginning they were like generally mostly selling Turkey. I mean the country, not the animal, and because it's the easiest product for them to sell. And after that, they had to, to sell something else. Well, and that was Russia, the tours around Russia. And they knew almost nothing about it. They haven't sold it a lot. Usually, like general agencies sell for like maybe like 1-2 tour per like day, or sometimes per week. So it was for them also a new product. So they were interested in some new information about this product, and also what was going on basically in the world, how the COVID situation developed, how the companies adapted, what's new countries first close, and then now they're looking what will open first, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's the situation in the market and new product information. Right. I would resume it.
Thanks. I just saw Anne jump in. Anne, welcome. If you can come back on, please do join us. And first of all, let me just sincerely apologize in giving you the wrong timing. I think I mentioned a different time, and I realized that we're on GMT +8. So first, let me apologize first for that. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon in my time here.
Happy to be here anyway, eventually.
And so I'm going to jump to you. I mean, we'll go back. We talked about sort of how the current crisis affected, the other organizations here. I mean, BBC is a bit different, of course. You guys are huge, and of course it's funded. The funding is a bit different. But how's the crisis affected BBC.com?
Well, obviously we're a news site, so people have been ravenously reading the news, especially during lockdown. I mean, I think for the earlier months of lockdown, people were coming to our global news page to get the latest on what was happening with the pandemic around the world. Being in travel, I think it was easy to think, oh, people aren't traveling. This isn't going to be a great outlook for us as a travel publisher. But actually the opposite happened. Our traffic over doubled. I think a lot of people were coming to read the news and sticking around to read features content, because a lot of what we provide on BBC Travel, I like to see as the antidote to negative news coverage. It's sort of that counterbalance. And we do a lot of stories on things like food and culture and heritage and history. And people were really interested in reading those stories, because I think it was giving them something else to think about, to dream about, that is different than just constantly reading about, all the, the deaths and the amount of people that are getting sick and all of that around the world.
But then you do rely on some advertising budgets. I mean, so that changed how you then had to work in terms of on your operations wise?
Definitely. So, in terms of things on the commercial side, we've had sponsorships pull out. I think it's things that have happened across the board. So what we've really had to do is work on a shorter lead time. Being a travel site, things tend to have been evergreen. We could have planned out certain projects. We could do advanced planning, 6 months in advance, 4 months in advance. Now we're working close to almost a 2-week quick turnaround lead time. So we're trying to provide, turnkey options for advertisers. So if we have a series coming out, we're going to commission it very quickly, run it really quickly, and hopefully advertisers can put their ads around it really quickly, because it's, you know, we want to have that instant inventory, if you will. So, and that's good for us too on the editorial side, because things are changing so much. We've had to pivot our content. So while we were covering maybe certain things, we had to shift and cover things in a different way. So as long as we're changing quickly, I think that suits the advertising market as well. So we're hoping, you know, those things can eventually work together and work on those quicker lead times.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back now to where we just left off, talk about, you know, what's catching the audience attention now. I mean, so Denis talked about, Denis, you know, is B2B. So I'll go to Karen now. Who's also on the sort of B2B aspect. I mean, from your end, are you seeing the same thing as Denis in terms of what your audience is looking for, or is it a bit different?
Yeah. So there's a consistency there between what Denis said and what Anna said. You know, how people are more drawn to the positive and and stories on ideas. So it's the same for us. Stories that are, you know, that are of companies pivoting for survival, or how they are innovating the processes, or how they're taking care of the people. Those kind of stories get a lot of attention from the audience, as well as how, you know, projections of recovery would likely look. So these are the kind of content that's the most attractive for our audience at this point.
Then I would assume, Stuart, then, like for you, what's been your most popular story out of your daily newsletters? 152, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the most popular, probably a stupid one about something idiotic happening to me is most likely to be the most read. But something I did forget to mention earlier was, in conjunction with Couchfish, we also decided to, we did a crowdfunding thing where we raised $11,000 from Travelfish members and other people. And then we're using that to fund long form travel journalism. So we ran, and the whole site is paywalled now. And so we ran our first piece, which is a Bali feature. It's quite a long read. It's like 3,500 words. And it did so well that we made back the writer's fee in the first 2 weeks in new memberships that piece drove. So that's been very encouraging as well, just because it's a different kind of, again, we're looking to try and highlight local voices, local people. The story was about how the foreign press tends to misrepresent Bali. And so everyone that we talked to were Balinese. And so it was sort of raising Balinese voices. So that's been very well received. And so we'll continue to run those. And if they keep performing like this, then I'll run them more frequently. But at the moment, it's going to be about one every 3 weeks. So that's been another way of, again, pushing content out to people, because I'm quite pessimistic of when any kind of real travel is going to start up again in Southeast Asia. So I've really got to work to take something to the people that's not going to have them sitting at home thinking, Jesus, I need to travel. Like this needs to be a substitute to not frustrate people. Like, as Anne was saying, to give a distraction from the news cycle of misery and woe, you know, you know, I would never commission something about COVID now. Forget it. You know.
No, I mean, it sounds like you've actually done pretty good in terms of your pivoting. So then you said you don't take sponsorships, Stuart, but would you consider, like, if somebody said, "Oh, I want to sponsor a post," you're doing pen on pen now, I want to sponsor something at my hotel.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
So how could industry then work with you if they wanted to?
They can't.
They can't. They
can't. Sorry. No, we've been running the business 16 years, and we've never run advertorial or sponsored content or anything. It's just if that rocks your boat, that's fine, but it's just not what we want to do. So we work independent of everybody. We've never taken a discount or a media rate or anything in 16 years of doing this. Which is quite rare in the industry.
It is. I applaud you. And, you know, I think a couple of weeks ago, we had one of your colleagues from the corporate side had mentioned about a launch of a new product. I don't know if the editorial is actually part of that, but I understand, like, the industry can sort of work with BBC on that aspect. But is the editorial aspect part of that? And then how then can then maybe destinations or other industry stakeholders then work with BBC in that regard to build, I guess, first explain the product and then maybe explain how then they could work with you about that.
Yeah, so the new product you're referring to is called Explore New Worlds, and it's similar to a search engine, but instead of a booking engine, it's looking at destinations where you can go right now. It's pulling in data from IATA as well as WHO and other governments to provide health information. So if you're, say, from somewhere in Europe and you want to go to Asia, it'll tell you where in Asia you can go and then tell you what all the restrictions are for COVID, whether we have to quarantine, all of that information. And what we're doing once you get to those landing pages is you're going to get a lot of our rich editorial for that destination. So if the destination is, say, Thailand, we're going to have all of our BBC travel stories on Thailand, our videos, even pull in content from BBC's travel show, which airs on World News. So the opportunity there is, I think, in terms of ad adjacencies and sponsorships, that we could, put those ad placements, if you will, on those pages, and also make sure we create content. And actually, this dovetails really nicely with a completely separate editorial effort where we want to get more content in Asia in general. We have a lot of content for certain destinations, but others we feel like, oh, well, we only have a couple stories on somewhere like Sri Lanka or Laos and Cambodia. So we want to really broaden our approach, but also broaden the voices and make sure we're getting sort of, if we're doing a story in Sri Lanka, we want to get a Sri Lankan writer. We just did one beautiful story on jackfruit that exploded because it's a trend in the West. And it's like, no, hey, this is a traditional food and there's a lot of history behind it. So we're going to tell that story. So again, it's packaging something that's really timely right now that people need as a resource with inspiration and just giving people that hope that we're going to travel again. Maybe it'll take a couple years to get there, but these are ideas that you can bookmark for when you can go and start to get inspired.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people now asking like, oh, if I want to submit a story, then how do I submit it to you and to bbc.com to provide that content for you?
Well, it doesn't work that way. I mean, if you're an advertiser, for example, if you want a specific story, that's going down the branded route. So I can't help you with that.
But if you were a freelance writer, right? If you said, exactly. Oh, I'm looking for content, if you're a freelance writer, I mean, they would just reach out to you. I guess there's a contact on the webpage, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. So for freelance writers, contact us directly. There's several editors on my team. We have one, Ellie Cobb, who's based in Melbourne, and she tends to focus on Asia and Pacific region. But we all field pitches from all over the world. So that's the best way. And if you don't have our email addresses, then just go to bbc.com/travel and our About Us page, and there's a form that comes right into my inbox. So you can just fill out the form, put in your pitch, and give us your contact information. And we respond to every pitch. It might take us a little while, but we'll eventually get there.
All right, Dennis, I'm going to go to you. So I know that Karen talked about how they sort of pivoted and did some more advertorial and working with stakeholders to create more content. Has Profi.Travel done the same thing? Are you working to do sort of advertorial content, sponsored posts, sponsored research?
Well, we have some sponsored, not posts, but sponsored materials posted. It's mostly like news stories about what, for example, now we just started opening some of our like international travel. So our tourists can go to Great Britain, to Turkey, Tanzania, now to South Korea. And also to Belarus and Kazakhstan. So we, for example, have some sponsored posts for the new destinations, for the new flights, stuff like that. Also, speaking about content, I agree with my colleagues from TTG and BBC, and also with Stuart MacDonald, that the positive information is really needed in this, during the crisis. So we have like a digest of some positive news, something positive happening. So it all basically gathering in one material. so people can at least, raise their mood a little bit reading this news. And also, there is a request for security issues as well. So people are interested in basically what if they travel, for example, to Turkey, what restrictions will they have, and how it will influence their comfort, holidays in general. So this in another topic that we really research now and discuss. And also I forgot to mention that in another kind of new business that we started during the crisis, it's an analytical center. And so we're analyzing basically big data from one of the biggest search engine and media holdings, Mail.ru Group. And we come up with basically this is a big research about the market, about the interest of the audience, and how it shifts now from time to time. And we noticed, for example, that besides the request for the security, there are some shifts in the travel behavior of the tourists. For example, they book now only like shorter holidays, and they book basically they don't book for a long time. The holidays that they book, they start not very long time from the time of the booking. I mean, they book just for the next week or next 2 weeks only. And obviously because they still afraid of some new restrictions. For example, in Russia recently, we had a strange rumor that on 20th of September, everything will close again. So nobody was booking before the 20th. And also, speaking about some shift in interest, they also want to know about some financial situation in the companies, in tour operators companies, because now in Russia we have a moratorium for bankruptcy. So basically nobody can go bankrupt even if they wanted to. Nobody knows exactly what is the financial situation in each tour operator. And moreover, we had a law that permitted to basically, as in Europe as well, how the tour operators can postpone the paying the money back to the tourists till next year. So it's another problem which it helps them to survive, but at the same time, the tourists are worrying if the companies will survive themselves, and will be able to pay this money back, next year. So that's another big topic.
Yeah. Well, I just want to remind our audience that you can submit questions to our panelists. Just one question here. I'll just jump into it, sort of expand on it a bit. I mean, I guess, what do the panelists think of Closure of Travel and Leisure Southeast Asia print edition? And just to add to that, I guess, would you guys see, more small publishers closing over the next few months, or consolidating or merging? In your own opinion, would you see that happening, or I mean, I assume that would be happening. What's your thoughts on that? I'll start, start from the top of the alphabet.
I think it's media. Anything can happen. And, I'm based in New York. So here in the US, a lot of publishers did shut down. There was quite a few TripAdvisor's editorial brands shut down. I know New York Times pivoted. They did New York Times at Home. I think anything's possible. And, I guess it really all depends on what their business model is and what their outlook is.
Stuart?
Yeah, I think you'll see more consolidation. I mean, there was news yesterday that Coconuts have just bought 2 Bangkok-based lifestyle magazines and websites. Which kind of came out of the blue. It'll be interesting to see what will happen, but I wouldn't be surprised to see more consolidations and more closures. I mean, particularly in print, it's so challenging with the ads.
Yeah. Yeah, Karen, what are your thoughts on that? TG is pretty strong in this region, so you'd be happy to see less competition, right?
Not really, actually. It's really sad times for fellow journalists, actually. I'm sure there are a lot of talented editors and reporters out in the marketplace now looking for jobs, and I wish I could help all of them, but it's just impossible at this point. In Asia, there's so many consumer titles that have shut down ever since the start of the crisis, and it just goes to show how much of a killer this COVID really is, besides being a virus itself. I think if travel and tourism doesn't start to recover in a more meaningful and sustainable way soon, we're going to see more of these casualties. It doesn't matter how strong or how big we are. I mean, we've seen even the strongest and biggest hotel companies having to, let go of so many of their people.
But I think, I think the most important thing people need to remind is that, as I said in the beginning of the webinar, communications will be fundamental as we look towards recovery, where you need to find authoritative and trusted information, right? And to go to sites and publishers that like BBC or TTG, even in Profi.Travel, these were important. So I guess the industry needs to support that if we're going to look towards recovery. Here's another question here. So what percentage of your content is dedicated to reminding your audience regarding safety and health protocols? Denis?
Yeah, I can start. And as I said previously, it's a lot of information is published about the safety regulations in different countries, because this is, what people need who would like to travel to these countries, especially, as I said, the countries, for Russians, it's the countries that are open right now. And it's, I would say, maybe at least like 30 to 40% of information now, like today in September, published about it. And if I may, I also like to share my opinion about the future of the media.
Yeah, sure. So, sorry, I just wanted to sort of try to get too many questions as possible. But yeah, feel free to.
I will be quick. Thank you. So I think that I will just look from the Russian perspective, because the media here are really kind of independent, and I don't see that they merge together and consolidate, because they're competing with each other, and it's almost impossible to merge different businesses. I think I would say more that the media would have to switch to another products, to another markets, as we did, for example, organizing online travel marts for non-tourism sector, and providing analytics as well. So I think it's just trying to find new products and sell them. For example, our travel agents in Russia also doing it. As they switch to some other businesses like flowers delivery, and some open the co-working space in their offices, and so on and so forth. So there are many ways to do that. You just need to think about it. So that's my opinion.
Sticking with B2B media, I guess, Karen, what about you? What's your percentage in terms of safety? Is it more? I assume it's going to be more than BBC.
Well, we get a lot of press releases on health and safety protocol that is being adopted by hospitality players, and we realize that even when we begin research on the topic that's not related to health and safety, somehow the conversation goes back into health and safety, because it's such a big part of the decision-making process now. If you ask anyone, an event planner, what would come first or top of their decision-making process when choosing a destination or a venue, the health and safety protocol is one of the key criteria. Same for a travel operator, same for a tour operator who's handling the consumers. They also want to know if the supplier or destination they're going with is safe, and protect them. So I would say probably 50% of our content is somehow related to health and safety.
And to Anne, though, I guess as a B2C sort of audience, it's got to be less, or am I just wrong? Is it 50-50 as well?
Yeah, we've done a couple articles, and we have a series that runs called The Future of Travel. So we've done a couple articles in that section, particularly focused on safety, really just hitting it on the nose. But our general content doesn't. You know, we tell stories. We tell stories, like I said, about food, about heritage, about culture and cultural identity. So, but what I will say is that, you know, we are mindful of safety. So, you know, we might add a sidebar, we might weave it into the context of the piece that, you know, things aren't open yet, or be mindful of this, call ahead, that kind of thing. But we really don't disrupt the piece. I think what we're doing instead is, with the Explore New World project, that's something that is going to handle that aspect of it and direct people to where they can actually go and learn what the guidelines are. So that's kind of going to be our approach for handling it. But it is important, I think, to build confidence in the consumer, of where they can travel, what's open, what's safe, what destinations are doing to make sure those safety measures in place. I think that's going to be really important for the traveler to know, not just in the immediate sense, but probably for the next 2 to even 3-4 years.
Yeah, I've heard many different figures on that. I guess it's like 5 years from now, but who knows? But Stuart, I mean, if travel does pick up, and go back to Travel Fish, I mean, that's not closed yet. That's not closed, I assume, right? That's
No,
still...
yeah, the site is still open. That's where we're running these new long reads on the main Travel Fish site.
But then, so
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so then as destinations, let's say, open up and we start traveling, would you start including that safety and health protocols into the guides? I mean, there are travel guides, right? I mean, you're gonna have to...
I think it's that kind of, at least using Indonesia as an example, it's very difficult to find authoritative and accurate information that's actionable, you know? So I think there's other resources that are doing a better position to do a good job of it. So like the CDC and those kind of sites that really just, this is how you need to, you know, wearing a mask or getting a swab test or whatever. And at this stage, yeah, no, I'm not getting into, when things start to open up, we'll start looking at doing a news feed on which borders are open and that kind of thing. But I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. So I've got some time.
You just leave that to BBC to take care of that when they...
Yeah, BBC can have that one.
I mean, Karen, you're not going to plan to launch some sort of dashboard in that regard, right? I mean, just like, you guys do get all the news about what's going on in the industry, from the public and private side, right?
We do. But we have not actually thought of doing a dashboard that provides that sort of information. There are actually a lot of organizations that have that are tracking, you know, they're investing resources to tracking that. Like American Express Business Travel has its own website, and it's really, really good. You can actually go in and you know, put in the search into the search bar of the destination that you're looking to travel to, and right away you could see all the information regarding quarantine and health checks and all the necessary things you need to do in order to get to the destination. So we leave this tracking, this very tedious tracking, to the experts.
Right. I think we're running out of, actually we are actually out of time. So just to end this, I will let everyone just have one final thoughts before we close this. So we'll start with Denis. Denis, we have to close up. Let you have any final thoughts before we close? Anything you wish to add?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that, again, to go back to the positive information, I think, you know, people mostly blame media for putting all the negative information in the news. And I think we really need to also to focus on something positive. And it will not only, you know, bring attention to the media, but also will help, you know, people, you know, to survive, to be in a better mood, and you know, to be proactive.
Yeah, I strongly understand the need to support the media right now. It's often overlooked with the hotels, but I said getting trusted information has always been the problem from the beginning of the pandemic to now. So yes, I do encourage everyone to make sure that you still support your media publishers out there, both big and small. Karen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, keep communications going, even if you think you have nothing new to say. You could consider contributing opinion pieces to establish your presence more positively in the marketplace.
Anne, any final thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of negative things going on right now, but this is a time to reset and rethink things in terms of coverage, in terms of the travel industry. Stories on things like sustainability have been working wonderfully for us. Stories about wisdom from indigenous populations and sort of what people can learn to kind of do things better. And I think that's a way moving forward. And it's a global pandemic. We're all one, we're all connected. So travel is one of the most connecting things in subject matter wise. So I think let's see it as a big opportunity to kind of move forward in a more positive and yet more innovative way.
And Stuart, sorry, I get distracted by your background, but yes, you get the final word. You get the final word.
I would say that travel is going to start again. Now, whether it's in 2 months or 2 years or 10 years, at some stage, it is going to start again. And so I think it's important to maintain a relationship with whoever your readers are or whoever your clients are. So whether it's pushing out information like we are through an email newsletter or through running new features like BBC are doing, it's maintaining that relationship so that when people are able to start traveling again, they remember who you are. You're the guy who's been emailing me every day for the last 18 months, So I think that's important.
So you think organizations should do what you're doing, sending out an email every day, do an itinerary through all their properties in Asia?
I think I'm the only person stupid enough to do it.
You've been successful. So
Thank you.
That, I'll let you go. With that will end the session. I'll let Stuart will go back to surfing.
Back to surfing, yeah.
Yeah, that's not fair. That is not fair. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us. It's really very informative, and I'd like to once again thank all of our speakers for joining us. And again, I apologize for the timing. I know it's extremely, extremely late there or early, depending on your point of view. So I thank you so much for jumping in, and I apologize again. Thank you, Karen. Congratulations again on your Pot of Gold Award for Business Article. Dennis, thank you so much for your inputs. Really, I know nothing that much about what's going on in Russia, just from what I read in the news. So having your thoughts is greatly appreciated. And with that, that is the end. I'll let you guys all turn off your cameras. I will just do some closing notes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so before we close up here, I just wanted to make everyone aware of what's going on next. In about 30 minutes, or actually 20 minutes, if you're a PTM delegate, you can join us for our quick fire presentation on future travel on destination aviation. If you're not a PTM delegate, you can still register as a trade visitor. Just go to our website, just go to the register as a trade visitor. It's free. Register today. We have a great program over the next few days. There's chances to win games and prizes and great more content, another PTM forum tomorrow. But the next session is our quick fire at 5:30. That's GMT +8. So that's actually just 20 minutes from now. For those other PTM delegates, this is just a quick rundown of our activities tomorrow. Just a quick flash. All information is on our website at www.pata.org/PTM. Any other questions you might have, you can email me at paul@pata.org. All information, of course, is on our website, www.pata.org. Once again, thank you to my speakers, and I have to apologize again for messing up the timing. That is my fault. But thank you so much for joining. They're very insightful, and thank you for all of you watching here on Zoom and on Facebook. And with that, I will hopefully see you at the next session, which is the quick fire presentation. See you then. Take care. Bye.